Okay, now I want to really just say, Mom, thank you for being here. This is the OG, guys. This is where the no options approach was all started. Her and my dad really is where I've got the no options. So I'm excited to kind of hear her story. I hear her talk about it because she's always telling me these things. But it's kind of neat to be able to talk to her today and let you guys hear the story because it was again God's hand on how this all happened. There's so many stories, Mom, we could talk about. I mean, good Lord, we could go way back. What I want to do is I'm going to go back to kind of where the no options mindset came from. Talk to me, Mom, a little bit about back in the 70s when I was diagnosed with diabetes. Now, keep in mind, guys, this was the 70s, so we didn't have all the technology, we didn't have all the medical knowledge and experience that they have now. So back in the 70s, when I was diagnosed with diabetes, living in the Golden Triangle, living on the bayou, right? What was that like? I mean, what did you and Dad's approach, and what was that like when I was diagnosed with it back then?
Well, we were very, very fortunate to have great doctors. Our pediatrician in Beaumont, Dr. Johnson, was the one that diagnosed what was wrong and sent you directly to the hospital. And I had no clue what diabetes was like, I'd heard the word, but that was about it. I didn't know anyone that had it. So we went directly to the hospital and they started treating you. But then he sent us he said, the best diabetic specialist was in Galveston. And so we went to Galveston that next
Travis?
week. Dr.
Travis, yes.
Wonderful man. And he got us started on the right track. He also was the one that was over the camp, the diabetic camp in Kerrville. Every summer he had that camp. And so when he saw Ty and talked to him a little while, he said, I want Ty to go to that camp this summer.
Gosh, I remember that camp.
Fantastic. So we did. We went to the camp that summer, and he went sick. We carried him in, limp as a rag, and sick. So he went straight to the where they had the little hospital set up there at camp. Dr. Travis took care of him, told us to leave, go home, which was very, very difficult. And so we tried to stay in touch every day. And then they had a huge rain while Ty was there, flooded everything. And so Dr. Travis's wife called me and said, the kids are okay. They're flooded, but they're on a hill, so they're having fun playing in the mud. So it was okay. I can't remember if he was there a week or 2 weeks, but
I think it was a week. But just to grab that thought out of that, is that where I learned? That's where I learned how to take shots.
That's where you learn how to give it in your stomach.
Yes. So if I remember, they gave me oranges. Yes, I do.
At the hospital, they did that when you first went in. He had to practice on an orange, but then when he got to camp, they taught him how to give it into his stomach.
Yeah, and that was the syringes.
Yeah.
That I would inject. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, and I remember a lot about that camp. That was a lot of fun, but I know it was pretty stressful.
Learned a lot and met a lot of kids there, so it was really a good camp. But Dr. Travis, even though he was great, he recommended us to Houston, to Dr. Hill.
Dr. Leighton Hill.
Leighton Hill was our savior, I'll tell you. He's the one that developed the pump. He was wonderful. I can't say enough about him, and he was Ty's doctor until he got older. So
Dr. Leighton Hill, though, let's talk about that for a minute. He was part of the team that developed the insulin pump, and if I remember correctly, he had a daughter that was about my age that was losing her eyesight.
She was a little bit older, I think, than you. Okay. Just a little, not a lot, but she was. But he was developing a pump for her.
Yeah.
And he did. He developed the pump. You and she got it at the same time, and it was a huge thing. It was what they use for IVs in the hospital.
For chemotherapy.
For chemo, yeah.
And I said, Mom, if I don't remember, it was like 1 pound 9 ounces. That first one, so it was
seemed like it was 10. Yeah,
it was like a brick.
Yeah, because he had to wear it on his side. But anyway, that's where our first pump came from.
So during those times, though, talking about kind of this no options. You guys, I mean, being raised with you and Dad, me, Todd, and Gia were kind of taught to get up, dust off. I mean, you're okay. Absolutely. Put a Band-Aid on it, keep moving. And that was our approach, right? And to life, I think to this day, we all probably still go about that approach.
I think we do too, yeah, for sure.
Probably in sometimes where we shouldn't.
I know. Why you hadn't died.
But with that being the way I was raised, I believe that's really, honestly, I think that's what's helped me through what I've been through. Right? But I want to talk, staying on track of talking about the mindset. So after I got the pump, I know there were evenings and nights, middle of the nights, that you had to get up and you would take off from Southeast Texas, which is about 2 hours, hour and a half, to the doctor's office there in Houston. I mean, my dad would be there, stay at home because we had Todd Gia there going to school and all that good stuff, and he was working. Me and you would load me up in the back of that car, and we'd take off in the middle of the night some nights to get to Houston.
Yeah.
So those kind of things. What kept you mentally stable and able to push through those kind of things?
Well, because we had to take care of you. We had God. I know that was the whole thing. Got us there and got you treatment and stuff. We did have to make those trips though several times like that.
I do remember.
Rushed. And one terrible where Dad and I both took you that we didn't think you were going to make it when we got there. And poor Dad, he picked you up, carried you in that emergency room and headed out the door. He couldn't
stay in there. Now, from a parent now, being a parent now, I can't even imagine, all that. But you guys obviously were very mentally strong and no option. I mean, y'all had the no option approach way before I ever came up with it. But the thing is I feel like, again, that's what y'all taught us, right? Growing up in Bridge City, our backyard was the bayou. Right? We lived there. You could probably talk a little bit about, as a diabetic, I think the insulin pumps, as I got older, I got different insulin pumps, but we were always tearing up insulin pumps or jumping in the water or falling out of the boat, whatever it was.
Yes, absolutely. We bought lots of pumps for sure. But that one was rather difficult. We actually bought you that go-kart.
Yes.
The ones that sit really, really low, to the road. I don't know why we did that, but he wanted one. So we got him a go-kart, and that big pump, he was on it one day, and it drug and hit the road. So he came off, and it was in pieces. So we had to hustle to Houston and try to figure something else out. And that's when they got the first new pump for us.
I think that was one of many things. Like I said, I think I remember falling out of the boat.
Yeah. Yes.
We were skiing or fishing or something.
Yeah.
And but there were always things, right? And I feel like even today, there's challenges we all run into. Back then, we just pushed through them.
You just, whatever came up, you took care of it. There was one day you were playing ball with the guys, and these were kids. Y'all were still in elementary school, I think. And we always told you, if you're going to play rough like that, take your pump off. Play, and then put it back on when you're through. And so you had taken your pump off and laid it on a tree that had fallen down, the trunk of the tree. And when you were through playing and went to get it, it was gone. We had the whole neighborhood looking for that pump. And when they found it, it had dog teeth marks all over it. So a dog or some creature had hauled it up. So we had to head for Houston again for pumps. There were many times like that, many times, many emergencies.
So let's talk through that. So I lived with the different pumps. You and Dad just, again, kind of helped us push through that as a family, and as me as a kid. I grew up thinking you just deal with it, right?
You deal with
you
it.
just deal with it. Figure it out, kind of thing. My dad, it'll be all right.
It'll be all right.
I can remember times I'm not sure that it was going to be all right, but that was just the mindset we have. And honestly, today, I think that's really what pushed us through.
Well, and I think, too, the doctors helped us with that, because Dr. Hill told us, do not get a bracelet that says I am a diabetic, because that makes you different from others, and you're not. You don't want that. So that was probably one of those things I would have done, but he said no, so I didn't do it. So that's one of those things that we learned from the doctor. You do what everybody else does. Don't try to be different.
Well, you say that, and I do. I think some of my biggest memories as a kid with you is we would go to these birthday parties, and they'd have all those cakes. And, back then it was Kool-Aid full of sugar. And then there's that tab over on the side for me. And I think I've talked about this before, but if you haven't had tab, it's similar to just...
Supposed to be Coke, but
it's not. It's not close. It was the first diet drink I think they ever came out with, and it was bad.
Yeah.
They've come a long way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so again, with you and being my caretaker and all that, so let's fast forward, really. We get through high school, and we do, as then still went through several pumps, went through all these different things, went off to college. And then And we always had things, right? I mean, there was always challenges. I mean, there was hospitalizations through all those times. I remember calling you guys and saying, "Hey, I've been in the hospital for 2 days. Can you help me?" But as those times went through, I mean, I can't imagine as a parent now how stressful those were because we didn't have phones back then either. Right. But now let's fast forward to when I was 30 years old, right? I was 30 and I was living in Austin, Texas. I was feeling really bad. And so I went into the doctor's office and they come out and tell me, I'm there by myself, and they tell me, your kidneys are failing, but you have such brittle diabetes, we really need to do a dual transplant, right? Where it's a kidney and a pancreas.
They just suggested the kidney. Dr. Hill was the one that suggested the pancreas. When I called him to talk about it, after you called me and told me what that doctor said, that your kidney was failing, I called Dr. Hill, and he told me, he said, Earlene, if you're going to do one, why don't you try to do both, the pancreas and the kidney? So
that, at that point, that's when we connected with the doctor that was kind of, again, I was kind of a lab rat, a guy out in Baltimore that was doing these dual transplants. So Dr. Stephen Bartlett out of Baltimore, Maryland, was doing these dual transplants. Mom and I go out and we go, remember we went out there for testing, and Mom told me, and you can verify this, Mom, if I can be the one to donate, then I'm going to do it.
That's right. Now I wanted to do it.
Yes. So at the time you were 60 years old, and so they tested me and they said I was a candidate for this dual transplant. Mom went in, and Mom's definitely a candidate for me. So off we go now, right? We're in line, and we're waiting on that call now for several months. I would go to work, I would go to bed because the kidneys was wearing me out. Mom was living in Orange Bridge City, and I was in Austin. And so we waited on the call. Well, we finally get the call, and this is kind of interesting. The one time that Mom has never answered her phone was the night I called her, because they had called me and said, "Hey, Ty, we've got it. There's been an accident, and they have a pancreas that matches you. We just want to kind of get you prepared, right? But stay calm. We'll give you a call if it still looks like a match." So anyway, I called Mom and I said, "Hey, Mom, we got the call. Get ready." And she didn't answer, right? So I finally got her. We connected, and that's how we got there. But
we had people, and we were all going to try to meet in Houston at the airport.
Yes, we all went different directions.
Todd was in Houston. I was in Bridge City. You were in Austin.
Gia was in Hawaii.
And Gia was on vacation in Hawaii.
So we all connected, but I want to get to the point here where, again, going back to the no option mindset, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, I lost my dad back in '98, right, to pancreatic cancer, which is ironic. Pancreas has kind of been a really sore spot in our family, right? But so you're at home living in the house we grew up in. We get the call, but as a mindset, I mean, you had no even hesitation on what you were doing, right? I mean, from an organ donor's perspective, talk about that. You were 60 years old. And how has your life been since that?
I haven't had a minute's trouble since that. I'm 84 now, and I feel pretty healthy. I haven't had any problems. Especially with kidney, never ever a problem. But I never thought about it. I just knew that's what I wanted to do, and you needed a kidney, and I had one, so.
God gave us two, right?
That's right. That's what it was for.
Yep. So anyway, as we move forward, though, right, that was a very successful surgery. Spent a lot of time in Baltimore, and which was fine because, again, it was more of a research development thing there. And that went well, got through it, got home, and life continued. Like, we went right back to...
It was wonderful.
I say that, right? There are things as we run into challenges in life, whether it be little ones or large ones, it sometimes changes our lifestyle. I mean, at the time I think I came home, I was taking like 60 pills a day.
Yeah.
Thank God for you. You were helping me kind of get through that, right? Understanding my meds. You kind of coached me through that whole thing, because when you're going through it, you really need a caretaker, because you are on a lot of it that sometimes you can't think straight. Yeah. But you, as a 60-year-old, just had a major surgery and were still able to take care of me. You're a pretty amazing person to be able to do all that.
Well, that's what moms do.
I want to say there's a lot of things that you taught us, you and Dad, but I think the part of just being able to push through, kind of look at it as what I
Hmm.
talk about now, as no options.
That's right.
What if we just looked at things as no options, right? And we push through our challenges. And I really believe you guys were doing this way before I've just kind of formalized what you guys were doing back in the 70s with us.
Yeah. That was just the way we lived. Whatever came up, you took care of, and
Yeah.
especially with your kids.
Well, I
And
tell you,
so,
and I said this, guys, when I was talking about Crystal. What in the world can you give a person, especially your mother, on Mother's Day when someone's giving you life twice? She's given it to me twice, right?
yep.
So, Mom, I can't. I mean, I've told you a million times. Thank
Yep.
you. I love you, and
Love
thank you
you.
for what you've done.
Oh, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Very.